The council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Kethra collapsed into her seat. Her blue skin had turned pale, almost gray, and her 4 arms trembled against the ancient stone table. The other council members stared at her, waiting for words none of them wanted to hear. "They have taken the northern provinces," she said, her voice cracked. 3 million of our people gone." High Counselor Mareth closed his eyes. He was old, older than most remembered, and he had seen wars before, but nothing like this, nothing like the Vorath. The Vorath had come from the darkness between stars. No one knew where they originated. No one knew what they truly wanted. They simply arrived and they destroyed. Planet after planet, civilization after civilization, they swept through the galaxy like a plague, and now they had come to Kelarith. "Our armies?" Morith asked, though he already knew the answer. "Scattered, broken." Kethra's voice was hollow. General Tevon retreated to the mountains with what remained of the 3rd Division, perhaps 10,000 soldiers, the rest. She did not finish. Counselor Brent slammed 2 of his fists against the table. He was younger than the others, still full of fire. "We cannot simply surrender. Our people have lived on this world for 12,000 years. We have built cities that touch the clouds. We have created art that makes the stars weep. We cannot let these monsters take it all." "What would you have us do?" Counselor Melira asked softly. She was the oldest among them, her scales faded to silver. "Our weapons do not harm them. Our shields do not stop them. For every Vorath we kill, they send 10 more. We have fought for 6 months and we have lost every battle." "Then we must find new allies," Brent insisted. "Who?" Moreth spread his hands. "The Gathrak will not help us. They hide behind their planetary shields and pray the Vorath never notice them. The Kesith are already gone. The Maroth signed a treaty with the Vorath and were consumed anyway. There is no one left." The room fell silent again. Outside the tall windows, the twin suns of Kelarith were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. It was beautiful. Moreth wondered how many more sunsets his people would see. "There is one option we have not considered," a new voice said. Everyone turned. In the doorway stood Fleet Commander Sithon. He was wounded, one of his legs wrapped in medical bandages, but he stood straight and tall. In his hand he held a data tablet. "Commander," Mareth said, "you should be in the medical ward." "I have information the Council needs to hear." Sithon limped to the table and set down the tablet. "Before the war began, our survey ships mapped the outer reaches of the galaxy. They discovered a new species, a young species, barely 300 years into space travel." "What good are primitives to us?" Brent scoffed. "They call themselves humans." Sithon activated the tablet. A holographic image appeared above the table. It showed a creature standing on 2 legs with pale skin, dark hair, and small eyes. "They come from a world called Earth." Melira studied the image. "They look fragile, soft. What could such beings offer us?" "Watch." Sithon pressed another control. The hologram changed. Now it showed a battlefield. The council members watched in confusion as humans charged toward enemy positions. They did not use energy weapons. They used projectiles, explosives, and something that looked like fire. The battle was brutal, chaotic, and loud, but the humans kept fighting. When they fell, others took their place. When their weapons ran empty, they fought with their hands. When their hands broke, they used their teeth. "By the ancestors," Kethra whispered, "what manner of beings are these?" "They are survivors," Sithon said. "Their world is harsh. Their history is filled with war. They have fought each other for resources, for beliefs, for things we cannot even understand. And through it all, they have survived. They have evolved not to be the strongest or the fastest, but the most stubborn." Mareth leaned forward. "You believe these humans could fight the Vorath?" "I believe they are the only ones left who might." "And why would they help us?" Melira asked. "What could we offer them?" Sithon paused. "That is where things become complicated. Humans are strange. They do not think like us. They form attachments. They feel things deeply. If we can convince them that our cause is just, that we are worthy of protection, they will fight for us, not for resources or technology, for the idea itself." Brent laughed, though there was no humor in it. "You expect us to believe that an entire species would go to war for an idea?" "I expect nothing," Sithon replied, "but I have studied their history. They have done it before, many times." He looked around the table. "We have no other options. The Voreth will reach the capital in 3 weeks. When they do, everything we have built will be ash." The council members exchanged looks. Moreth could see the fear in their eyes, but beneath it something else. Hope, perhaps, or desperation. At this point, it was hard to tell the difference. "How would we even contact them?" Moreth asked. "Our survey ship left a communication beacon near their system. If we send a message, they will receive it within 2 days. Whether they respond is another matter." Moreth stood slowly. His old bones ached, but he ignored them. "Then we will send a message. We will tell them of our people, our history, our struggle. We will ask for their help." He looked at each council member in turn. "And we will pray that these humans are everything Commander Sithon believes them to be." The message was composed that night. It told of the Calarian people, their ancient civilization, their art and science and dreams. It told of the Vorath invasion, the death and destruction, the hopelessness. And it ended with a simple request: "Help us." The beacon activated, sending the message racing across the void at speeds faster than light. And then the waiting began. 2 days passed, then 3, then 4. The council met each morning, hopping for news, receiving none. The Voreth continued their advance. 2 more provinces fell, millions more died. On the 5th day, as Moreth sat alone in his chambers, staring at the setting suns, a young communications officer burst through his door. "High Counselor," she gasped, "we have received a response." Moreth's heart nearly stopped. "From the humans?" "Yes, sir, she paused, catching her breath. "They are coming." Moreth grabbed the data tablet from her hands and read the message. It was short, barely 2 sentences long, written in a language that seemed harsh and angular compared to the flowing Calarian script. "We hear you. We're on our way." It was unsigned. There was no official seal, no diplomatic greeting, no formal acknowledgement. Just 5 words that somehow contained more promise than any treaty Moreth had ever seen. "How many ships?" he asked. "How large is their fleet?" The officer shook her head. "We do not know, sir. They did not say. They only sent their estimated arrival time." She hesitated. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. The same time the Voreth would reach the capital. It would be close, too close. But for the first time in 6 months, Moreth allowed himself to hope. The humans were coming. The Calarian people watched the sky with a mixture of fear and anticipation. News of the human response had spread quickly, carried by messengers and broadcast signals across the remaining free territories. Some celebrated, believing salvation was at hand. Others doubted, questioning whether an unknown species could truly stand against the Voreth when so many others had failed. In the capital city of Melanthra, refugees crowded the streets. They had fled from the conquered provinces, carrying only what they could hold in their many arms. Their children cried. Their elderly struggled. Their wounded bled. But still they moved, driven by some deep instinct to keep going, to survive just one more day. Ambassador Kethra walked among them, offering what comfort she could. She had been a diplomat once, skilled in the art of negotiation and compromise. Now she was simply another Calarian, waiting for either destruction or deliverance. "Ambassador." She turned. A young male was pushing through the crowd toward her. His name was Toreth, and he served as her assistant. His face was flushed with excitement. "What is it?" "Our astronomers have detected something. Ships, coming from the direction of human space." Kethra felt her pulse quicken. "How many?" Toreth's expression flickered. "That is the strange thing, Ambassador. Our sensors can only detect 12 vessels." 12, Kethra's hope faltered. Only 12 ships, against the Voreth Armada. They are large ships, Torith offered. Larger than anything in our fleet, but yes, only 12. Kethra closed her eyes. She had allowed herself to hope, and now that hope felt fragile like glass about to shatter. 12 ships. The Voreth had hundreds, thousands. How could 12 ships make any difference? But still, she reminded herself, the humans had come. They had not ignored the message or refused the call. They had crossed the vast emptiness of space to help a people they had never met. That had to mean something. When will they arrive? She asked. 3 days. 3 days. The Voreth were 6 days from the capital. It would be close. Have the council been informed? High Counselor Moreth is preparing to address the people. He asked me to find you. Kethra nodded and followed Torith through the crowded streets toward the council hall. Along the way, she passed murals depicting the history of her people. 12,000 years of civilization, painted in brilliant colors on stone walls. Wars and peace, triumph and tragedy, all of it leading to this moment. The council hall was already filled when she arrived. Citizens packed the galleries, desperate for news, for guidance, for anything that might give them strength. On the raised platform at the center of the chamber, High Counselor Moreth stood waiting. "My people," he began, his voice amplified by ancient acoustic technology. "I know you are afraid. I know you have lost much. Family, friends, homes. The weight of this war lies heavy on all of us." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "But today I bring news of hope." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Our call for help has been answered. 3 days from now, ships from a distant world called Earth will arrive in our system. They call themselves humans, and they have come to fight alongside us." The murmur grew louder. Some shouted questions, others wept. Moreth raised a hand for silence. "I know many of you doubt. I know many of you wonder how strangers from across the galaxy can succeed where our own brave soldiers have fallen. I cannot promise victory. I cannot promise survival. But I can promise you this: we are no longer alone." After the address, Moreth met with his council in a private chamber. The mood was tense. Fleet Commander Sithon was present, despite his injuries, along with the remaining military leaders. 12 ships, Counselor Brent said flatly. "You have told our people to hope, and all we have are 12 ships." "The humans sent what they could," Sithon replied. "Their civilization is young. Their resources are limited, but they came. That is what matters." "It matters only if they can fight," Malira said. "What do we know of human military capabilities?" Sithon activated a holographic display. "From our survey data and intercepted communications, we have learned some things. Humans evolved as persistence hunters on their homeworld. They are not the fastest or strongest of their planet's species, but they possess remarkable endurance. They can pursue prey for days without rest. They heal quickly from injuries that would kill other beings. And their minds," he paused, "their minds are unusual." "Unusual how?" Moreth asked. "They experience something called adrenaline in moments of extreme stress. It temporarily increases their strength, speed, and pain tolerance. And they have a psychological trait that defies logical explanation. When faced with overwhelming odds, when any rational being would flee, humans often become more determined. They call it many things: courage, stubbornness, spite. Whatever it is, it makes them unpredictable in battle." Brent snorted. "Unpredictable is another word for undisciplined." "Perhaps," Sithon said, "but there is something else. Humans form bonds, deep, unbreakable bonds. They will fight for each other beyond all reason. They will sacrifice themselves to protect their companions. And once they consider someone an ally," he met Brent's gaze, "they will fight for that ally as if their own lives depended on it." The council fell silent, considering this. Finally, Moreth spoke. "Commander, when the human ships arrive, I want you to greet them personally. Learn everything you can about them, their tactics, their weapons, their limitations, and more importantly, learn who they are as people. If we are to fight alongside them, we must understand them. Sithon nodded. I will do my best, High Counselor. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and prayer. The remaining Calarian military forces fortified positions around the capital. Civilians were evacuated to underground shelters. Weapons were distributed to any who could use them. And then on the 3rd day, the human ships arrived. They emerged from faster-than-light travel near the outer edge of the Kelarith system. 12 vessels, as the astronomers had predicted, but now that they were closer, their size became apparent. Each ship was massive, longer than any Calarian vessel, covered in thick plating and bristling with weapons. Fleet Commander Sithon took a shuttle to meet them. As he approached the lead ship, his breath caught. Up close, the human vessel was even more imposing. Its hull was scarred and dented, showing signs of countless battles. This was not a ceremonial ship or a diplomatic vessel. This was a warship, pure and simple. His shuttle was directed to a landing bay. When the doors opened, Sithon found himself facing a group of humans. They wore dark uniforms and carried weapons even in their own ship. Their faces were hard, their eyes alert. They looked like soldiers. One of them stepped forward. He was tall for a human, with gray hair and deep lines carved into his face. His eyes were sharp, assessing. "I'm Admiral Marcus Chen," he said. "United Human Forces. You must be the folks who sent the message." Sithon tried to compose himself. "I am Fleet Commander Sithon of the Calarian Defense Force. On behalf of my people, I thank you for answering our call." Chen nodded once. "Save the thanks for after the fight. What's your situation?" Sithon was taken aback by the human's directness. "The Voreth will reach our capital in 3 days. We have perhaps 10,000 soldiers remaining. The enemy numbers are unknown but vast. They have already conquered most of our world." Chen's expression did not change. "Show me." They moved to a briefing room where Sithon displayed holographic maps of the invasion. Chen studied them in silence, occasionally asking questions in his blunt, economical way. The other humans gathered around, watching, listening. "These Voreth," Chen said finally, "what do they want?" "We do not know," Sithon admitted. "They do not negotiate, they do not communicate, they simply destroy." "Sounds familiar." Chen exchanged a look with another human, a woman with short red hair and scars across her neck. "Commander Tors." "We've fought their type before," Tors said. "Maybe not this exact species, but the same kind. They're not conquering, they're feeding." Sithon felt cold. Feeding. They strip planets of resources. Biological matter, minerals, energy, everything useful gets consumed, everything else gets burned. Tors shrugged. "We've dealt with similar threats. They're tough, but they have weaknesses." "What weaknesses?" "They think like predators. They're used to prey that runs. They don't handle it well when prey fights back." Tors smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "We don't run." Chen turned back to Sithon. "Here's what's going to happen. We've got 12 ships and 6,000 Marines. That's not enough to win a conventional battle against an armada, but we're not going to fight conventional." "Then what will you do?" Chen leaned forward. "We're going to make them bleed." The humans wasted no time. Within hours of their arrival, they had begun transforming the landscape around the capital. Sithon watched in amazement as human engineers directed construction vehicles and automated machines, building fortifications that looked unlike anything in Calarian military doctrine. "What are these structures?" he asked Commander Tors, who had been assigned to coordinate with the Calarian forces. "Bunkers, kill zones, choke points." Tors pointed to a series of narrow passages between buildings. "The Voreth like to swarm. They rely on numbers to overwhelm defenders, so we're going to take away their numbers, force them to fight in tight spaces where they can't use their advantage." "And if they simply bomb the city from orbit?" Tors grinned. "They could, but they won't. They want what's in the city, Resources, biological matter, all that good stuff. Bombing would destroy what they came for. She looked at Sithon. Besides, Admiral Chen has a plan for their fleet too. Before Sithon could ask what that plan was, a commotion caught his attention. A group of human soldiers was setting up some kind of weapon at a street corner. They were laughing and joking despite the grim situation, calling out to each other in their strange, harsh language. "Your soldiers," Sithon said. "They seem relaxed." Tors glanced at them. "Yeah, that's how humans are before a fight. We joke, we laugh, it keeps us sharp." She studied Sithon's face. "Does that bother you?" "I do not understand it," Sithon admitted. "The Voreth are coming, we may all die. How can they laugh?" "'Cause we might all die," Tors replied. "That's exactly why we laugh. If these are our last days, we're not going to spend them being miserable." She put a hand on Sithon's shoulder. "Look, Commander, I know your people are scared, I know you've lost a lot, but you need to understand something about humans. We've been fighting for our survival since we first stood upright. We've fought ice ages, famines, plagues, each other. Every time the universe said we should die, we said no." She squeezed his shoulder. "The Vorath are just the latest thing trying to kill us, and we're still here." Over the next 2 days, Sithon watched the humans prepare. And slowly, he began to understand what Sithon had told the Council about human bonds. The soldiers worked together with an efficiency that came from deep trust. They anticipated each other's movements. They covered each other's weaknesses. And whenever a Calarian citizen wandered into their work area, lost or frightened, the humans stopped what they were doing to help. Sithon saw a large human male carrying a Calarian child on his shoulders, entertaining her while her parents received medical care. He saw human medics treating wounded Calarian soldiers with the same attention they gave their own. He saw Admiral Chen himself standing in line for rations with his troops, joking with them as if he were just another soldier. "They are strange," Kethra said, appearing at Sithon's side. She had been observing the humans too. So informal, so chaotic, and yet they function, Sithon finished. "Perhaps better than any military I have seen." "How do they do it?" Sithon thought about it. "They trust each other, not because of rank or protocol, but because of shared experience. They have fought together, bled together. That creates something stronger than discipline." Kethra watched a group of humans teaching Calarian soldiers how to use their projectile weapons. The language barrier was significant, but the humans were patient, using gestures and demonstrations to communicate. One Calarian managed to fire a weapon correctly, and the humans cheered, slapping him on the back. "Ambassador," Sithon said quietly, "I think we may have finally found allies worth believing in." The night before the battle, Admiral Chen called a briefing for all officers, both human and Calarian. The room was packed, standing room only, with the holographic display showing the expected Vorath approach. "Here's the situation," Chen said, his voice calm and clear. "The Vorath fleet will enter orbit in 12 hours. Ground forces will begin landing shortly after. Their usual strategy is to establish a perimeter and then push toward the center, consuming everything in their path." He switched the display to show the city defenses. "We're going to let them land. We're going to let them push, and then we're going to trap them." Murmurs rippled through the Calarian officers. "Let the enemy land. Let them push." It sounded like madness. Chen continued, ignoring the reaction. "The city has been divided into sectors. Each sector has kill zones, ambush points, and fallback positions. We're going to draw the Vorath deep into the urban environment, then collapse the exits behind them. They'll be fighting in our terrain by our rules." "And what of their fleet?" High Counselor Morath asked. He had insisted on attending the briefing, despite concerns for his safety. Chen's expression flickered with something that might have been anticipation. "Commander Tors." Tors stepped forward. "The human ships will engage the Vorath fleet directly. We know we're outnumbered, so we're not going to try to beat them. We're going to distract them, keep them busy while our ground forces do their work." "But you will be destroyed. A Calarian admiral protested. Maybe, Tor said simply, but we'll take a lot of them with us, and every ship we draw into orbital combat is one less ship bombing your city. The room fell silent. Sithon felt something tighten in his chest. The humans were offering to sacrifice their fleet to protect Calarian civilians. It was an act of courage that bordered on insanity. There's one more thing, Chen said. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of every officer present. I know some of you don't believe in us, that's fine. You don't have to believe, just fight. Fight for your homes, your families, your people. Fight because the alternative is extinction. He paused. We came here because you asked for help. We're not leaving until this is over one way or another. That's a promise. After the briefing, as officers filed out to their positions, Sithon approached Chen. Admiral, may I speak with you? Chen nodded, leading him to a quieter corner. Why? Sithon asked. Why are you doing this? Your ships, your soldiers, you will lose many of them. And for what? A people you have never met, a world that is not your own. Chen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than before. I had a daughter once. She was 7 when the Reach War started. That's what we call the first alien attack on human space. He paused. We lost her in the first wave, her and her mother and about 50 million other people. Sithon did not know what to say. After that, I made a promise. Never again would I stand by while innocent people were slaughtered. Chen's eyes met Sithon's. Your people reached out across the stars asking for help. You trusted us with your survival. I don't take that lightly. He placed a hand on Sithon's shoulder. We're going to fight for you like you were our own, because in the end, that's what being human means. We stand together or we fall alone. Sithon felt moisture in his eyes. It was a Calarian physiological response to strong emotion, and he did not try to hide it. Admiral, on behalf of my people, I thank you, not for coming but for caring. Chen smiled, a genuine smile that softened his hard features. Save the thanks for after we win, Commander. We've got a long night ahead. The Voreth came with the dawn. Their ships filled the sky like a swarm of insects, so many that they blotted out the twin suns. The sound of their engines was a constant, droning roar that made the ground tremble, and then the landing craft began to descend, hundreds of them, carrying the shock troops that had broken every army in their path. From his position in the command bunker, Sithon watched the enemy deployment. The Voreth soldiers were nightmarish things, all chitin and blade and teeth. They moved in perfect synchronization, waves of them pouring out of the landing craft and advancing toward the city. They're in Sector 7, a human operator called out, moving toward the first choke point. Admiral Chen stood at the center of the room, his eyes fixed on the holographic display. Let them come. Wait for my signal. In orbit, the human fleet engaged the Voreth armada. Sithon had access to the tactical feed, and he watched in astonishment as the 12 human ships waded into the enemy formation. They should have been destroyed in moments. Instead, they fought like demons. The human ships moved with a fluidity that defied their size. They wove through enemy fire, delivering devastating volleys before spinning away. When one ship was damaged, the others closed ranks to protect it. When a Voreth vessel tried to break away to bombard the planet, 2 human ships pursued it relentlessly until it was destroyed. How are they doing that? Kethra whispered. She had joined Sithon in the command bunker, refusing to hide in the shelters. I do not know, Sithon admitted. They should not be able to match those numbers. On the ground, the Voreth advanced into the city. They moved quickly, eager for prey. But as they pushed deeper, they began to encounter resistance. The first ambush caught them in a narrow street. Human and Calarian soldiers opened fire from concealed positions, pouring projectiles and energy beams into the packed enemy ranks. The Voreth fell by the dozens, their screeches filling the air. But more came, always more. Fall back to position Delta, Chen ordered calmly. Let them push. The defenders retreated in good order, yielding ground while making the enemy pay for every step. The Vorath surged forward, sensing victory, unaware that they were being drawn into a trap. Sithon watched the tactical display. The Vorath were now deep inside Sector 7, their forces spread out across a dozen streets, and then Chen gave the order. Now! Explosions rocked the city. The exits that the Vorath had used to enter were suddenly blocked by collapsed buildings, burning vehicles, and walls of fire. The enemy was trapped. "All units weapons free," Chen said. The slaughter began. From rooftops and windows, from basements and bunkers, the combined human and Calarian forces opened fire. The Vorath, packed into the narrow streets, had nowhere to go. They tried to climb the walls. Snipers shot them down. They tried to break through the barricades. Minefields tore them apart. For the first time in the war, Sithon saw Vorath retreat. They fell back, stumbling over their own dead, seeking escape that did not exist. "They're learning," Tors reported from her position. "They'll adapt." "Then we adapt first," Chen replied. "Move to Phase 2. Phase 2 involved letting some Vorath escape, but only in carefully controlled directions. The survivors fled through predetermined routes, straight into new kill zones. It was merciless. It was brilliant. But the Vorath had numbers, and they were not stupid. After the first hour, they changed tactics. Instead of pushing forward, they began methodically destroying the buildings that hid the defenders. Their weapons cut through stone and metal like paper. "We're losing position Gamma," a Calarian officer reported. "Heavy casualties." "Reinforce from Reserve 3, Chen ordered, "and get those civilians evacuated." Sithon was about to respond when an explosion rocked the command bunker. Dust and debris filled the air. Through the haze, he saw that a section of the ceiling had collapsed. "The Vorath found us," Tors shouted, her voice muffled. "They're coming through the east tunnel." Chen's response was immediate. "All command staff, weapons up, we hold here." And then the Vorath broke through. They came in a wave of chitin and claws, screeching their terrible war cries. Sithon had a weapon in his hands, one of the human projectile guns, and he fired without thinking. The kick of it was strange against his arms, but the effect was satisfying. A Vorath fell, then another. Beside him, Chen fought with a calm efficiency that was almost frightening. His weapon never stopped firing, and every shot found its mark. When a Vorath got too close, he drew a blade and cut it down with a single stroke. "Admiral," Sithon shouted over the chaos, "we cannot hold." "Then we buy time," Chen replied. He grabbed Sithon's arm. "Get the ambassador out. Get to the secondary command post. Keep coordinating the defense." "What about you?" Chen smiled, that same genuine smile from the night before. "I'll catch up." He turned back toward the Vorath, and Sithon saw him draw another weapon, this one larger, more powerful. He began firing into the enemy ranks, creating a barrier of destruction that gave Sithon and Kethra time to escape. They ran through the tunnels, guided by human soldiers who seemed to know every turn. Behind them, Sithon could hear the sound of fighting, growing fainter but never stopping. They emerged in the secondary command post, a smaller bunker beneath the council hall. Human and Calarian officers were already there, coordinating the battle from multiple screens. "Status report," Kethra demanded, assuming command with a grace that surprised Sithon. "Sectors 7 through 9 are secured," an officer replied. "The Vorath have pulled back to regroup, but they're bringing in reinforcements from orbit." "And our fleet?" 5 human ships destroyed, 3 heavily damaged, but they've taken out 47 enemy vessels. 47, 5 ships against 47, Sithon could not comprehend it. "Admiral Chen," he asked quietly. "No word, sir. The primary bunker was overrun." Sithon closed his eyes. The human admiral had given his life to save them, just as he had promised. "Then we continue the fight," Kethra said. Her voice was steady. For Admiral Chen, for all who have fallen. The battle raged through the day and into the night. The humans fought with a ferocity that the Voreth had never encountered. When their weapons ran dry, they fought with knives. When their knives broke, they fought with their hands. They screamed defiance in the face of death, and they made the enemy fear them. And the Calarian soldiers, inspired by their allies, found strength they did not know they had. They held positions that should have fallen. They counterattacked when they should have retreated. They became, for perhaps the first time in their history, warriors. By morning, the Voreth advance had stalled. The enemy had suffered catastrophic losses, far more than any previous campaign, and their fleet, harried by the surviving human ships, could not provide the support they needed. "They're falling back," a sensor operator reported, his voice disbelieving. "The Voreth are falling back to their landing zones." Kethra and Sithon stared at each other. It seemed impossible. The Voreth never retreated. They consumed or were consumed. That was their way. "Pursue," a human commander asked. Before anyone could answer, a new voice crackled over the communication system. "Negative, hold positions, let them go." Sithon's heart leaped. "Admiral Chen." There was a pause, then a cough. "Reports of my death were premature, though not by much." Another cough. "The bastards knocked me out and buried me under rubble. My team dug me out an hour ago." Kethra laughed, a sound of pure relief. "Admiral, we thought you were lost." "I'm not that easy to kill." Chen's voice hardened. "But listen to me. The Voreth are retreating, but they're not finished. They're regrouping. They'll be back, and they'll come in greater numbers." "Then what do we do?" "We prepare, we fortify, and we send a message." There was something like satisfaction in Chen's voice. "The galaxy needs to know what happened here. They need to know the Voreth can be beaten." Sithon understood. This battle was not just about saving Kelarith. It was about showing every world, every species, that the Voreth were not invincible. "I will prepare the message personally," he said. "Good," Chen paused. "And Commander, thank you. Your people fought well. You should be proud." As the suns rose over the battered city, Sithon looked out at the devastation. Buildings had fallen. Streets were scarred. The dead numbered in the thousands. But they had survived. Against all odds, against the enemy that had crushed every other civilization in its path, they had survived. And they had not done it alone. He thought of the humans who had come so far to help, the soldiers who had fought and died for strangers, the admiral who had refused to give up even when buried beneath the ruins. They were strange, these humans, chaotic and emotional and utterly, impossibly stubborn. And they were the best allies the Calarian people had ever known. 3 months had passed since the battle for the capital. The Voreth had retreated to the northern provinces, licking their wounds and gathering strength. But they no longer advanced with the same confidence. Word had spread through their ranks of the new enemy, the soft-skinned aliens who fought like demons and refused to die. In Melanthra, reconstruction had begun. Human engineers worked alongside Calarian builders, repairing damaged structures and constructing new defenses. The streets that had run with blood now echoed with the sound of hammers and the hum of construction machines. Admiral Chen stood on a balcony overlooking the city, his arm in a sling from wounds that still healed. Beside him, High Counselor Moreth watched the work with tired but hopeful eyes. "Your people have done remarkable things," Moreth said. "We could never have survived without you." "Your people did the surviving," Chen replied. "We just showed up and made noise." Moreth smiled. It was an expression that had become more common in recent weeks. "I have received word from other worlds. The Gathrak wish to know more about our alliance. The Meloran Collective has offered resources for our defense. Even the Kesith survivors, those few who escaped, have sent messages of hope. The galaxy is watching." "Yes, and for the first time they see possibility where before there was only despair." Moreth turned to face Chen. "Admiral, what happens now? Your mission was to answer our call for help. You have done that. Will you return to your own world?" Chen was quiet for a moment. "That depends on your people and on mine." He looked out at the city. "We came to fight alongside you, but this war isn't over. The Voreth are still out there, and they won't stop until someone stops them." "You would stay?" "Some of us would, not all, but enough." Chen met Moreth's gaze. "High Counselor, humanity has been alone in the universe for most of our history. We've fought each other, hurt each other, done terrible things, but we've also learned. We've learned that survival isn't just about being strong, it's about standing together." He gestured at the city below, at the humans and Calarians working side by side. "What I see here is what humanity has always dreamed of, a chance to be part of something bigger, a chance to fight for something that matters beyond our own survival." Moreth nodded slowly. "Then we will build this alliance together, human and Calarian, and perhaps in time others will join us." "They will," Chen said. "Once they see what we can do together, they'll have to choose, stand with us or stand alone." He smiled. "And standing alone against the Vorath is something no one wants." Below them in the city streets, a celebration had begun. It was not the wild jubilation of victory, but something quieter, more profound. Human and Calarian families gathered together, sharing food and stories. Children played, their laughter rising above the noise of construction. Sithon walked among them, his wounds mostly healed, his spirit restored. He stopped to watch a group of human soldiers teaching Calarian children a game that involved kicking a round ball. The children shrieked with delight as they chased the ball through the rubble-strewn plaza. "Commander!" He turned. Commander Tors approached, carrying 2 cups of a steaming liquid. "Coffee," she said, offering him one. "Human drink, you might like it." Sithon took the cup and sipped carefully. The liquid was bitter and strong, unlike anything in Calarian cuisine. But there was warmth to it, a comforting heat that spread through his body. "It is acceptable," he said. Tors laughed, high praise from an alien. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the children play. "What will you do now?" Sithon asked. Tors shrugged. "Same thing I've always done. Fight, train, protect." She glanced at him. "Your people are quick learners. Another few months and your soldiers will be as good as ours." "That seems optimistic." "It's not optimism, it's observation." She took a long drink of her coffee. "Your people have been through hell, Commander, but you didn't break. That's rare. Most species, when they face something like the Vorath, they either collapse or run. You stood and fought." "We had help." "You did, but help doesn't mean much if the people you're helping won't help themselves." Tors met his eyes. "The Calarian people have something special. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Before Sithon could respond, a commotion drew their attention. A shuttle was descending toward the plaza, bearing markings that neither of them recognized. "What is this?" Sithon asked. Tor's expression sharpened. "Don't know, but I don't like surprises." The shuttle landed, and a ramp extended. From within emerged a delegation of aliens that Sithon recognized immediately. The Gathrak. They were tall, spindly beings with translucent skin and eyes that reflected light in multiple colors. The lead Gathrak stepped forward, his movements graceful and deliberate. He spoke in the common galactic tongue. "I am Ambassador Velthan of the Gathrak Confederacy. I seek audience with your leaders." Sithon stepped forward, pulling himself to his full height. "I am Fleet Commander Sithon. What business do the Gathrak have here?" Velthan's expression was difficult to read, but his tone carried something that might have been humility. "We have watched your battle. We have seen what you have accomplished against the Vorath, and we have come to ask." He paused, as if the words were difficult. "We have come to ask for your help." Sithon felt a surge of emotion that he struggled to control. The Gathrak, who had hidden behind their shields while the galaxy burned. The Gathrak, who had refused to answer Kelarith's call. Now they came asking for help. Part of him wanted to refuse, to let them face the Vorath alone as the Calarian people had been forced to do, but he thought of what Admiral Chen had said, about standing together, about being part of something bigger. "Wait here," he said. "I will bring you to the High Counselor." The meeting that followed was tense. Morath listened as Velthan explained the situation. The Vorath had turned their attention to Gathrak space. Their planetary shields were failing. Without help, they would be overrun within weeks. "You refuse to help us," Counselor Brenth said, his voice cold. "Why should we help you?" Velthan bowed his head. "We have no right to ask. We were cowards. We thought our shields would protect us, that if we remained neutral the storm would pass. We were wrong." He looked up, his strange eyes glistening. "I will not offer excuses. I can only offer the truth. My people are dying, and you are the only ones who have ever beaten the Vorath." The council debated long into the night. Some, like Brenth, argued against intervention. Others, led by Kethra, spoke of the need for unity. And through it all, Admiral Chen sat quietly listening. Finally, Morath asked for his opinion. Chen stood slowly. "High Counselors, I won't pretend to know the right answer here. The Gathrak let you down when you needed them. That's a hard thing to forgive." He paused. "But I'll tell you what I see. I see a species that's scared, that made mistakes, that's facing extinction." He looked at Velthan. "Sound familiar?" The council chamber was silent. "3 months ago we came to help you because you asked. Not because you deserved it or earned it, because you asked and because it was the right thing to do." Chen met Morath's gaze. "The galaxy is full of species that have been failed by others. If we start keeping score, we'll never build anything that lasts." Morath nodded slowly. "Admiral Chen speaks wisdom." He turned to Velthan. "The Calarian people will help you, not because you deserve it, but because no one deserves to face the Vorath alone." Velthan's relief was visible. "Thank you, thank you." "Do not thank us yet," Morath said. "The road ahead will be long and bloody, but we will walk it together." In the weeks that followed, the alliance grew. Gathrak ships joined the combined fleet. Gathrak scientists shared technology that strengthened the defenses, and slowly word spread across the galaxy. The Vorath were not invincible. There was hope. More species came. The Meloran with their vast industrial capacity. The Kesith survivors, burning with desire for vengeance. Even species that had never been directly threatened offered support, recognizing that the Vorath would eventually come for them too. And at the heart of it all, the humans. They trained the new allies. They shared their tactics. They fought alongside species they had never met, for worlds they had never seen. They became the backbone of the alliance, not because they were the strongest or the most numerous, but because they simply refused to give up. 1 year after the battle for Melanthra, the Allied forces launched their first major offensive. They struck at the Vorath positions in the northern provinces of Kelarith, driving the enemy back. It was a small victory, a single step on a long journey, but it was a beginning. Sithon stood on the battlefield as the last Vorath retreated through a portal to wherever they had come from. Around him, soldiers of a dozen species cheered and embraced. Human, Calarian, Gathrak, Meloran. Different shapes, different colors, different languages, but united. Commander Tors appeared at his side, her armor dented and scorched, but her spirit intact. "We did it," she said. "We did," Sithon agreed, "but there is much more to do." "Always is," Tors grinned. "That's what makes it interesting." Sithon looked up at the sky, at the stars that had once seemed so cold and distant. Somewhere out there, the Vorath still lurked, still hungry, still dangerous. But they were no longer unstoppable. The galaxy had found its courage. And at the center of that courage, always, were the humans. The strange, stubborn, impossible humans who had crossed the stars to help a people they had never met, who had fought and died for an idea. Sithon thought about what Tors had said on that first day. "We don't run." It was such a simple statement, and yet it contained everything that mattered. The Calarian people had survived because they had not given up. The alliance had formed because others had chosen to stand together. And the Voreth would eventually be defeated because the galaxy had finally found something stronger than fear. Hope, unity, the stubborn, irrational belief that tomorrow could be better than today. Humanity had brought those things to the stars, and the stars would never be the same. As the twin suns set over the liberated provinces, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Sithon allowed himself to smile. The war was not over. The challenges ahead were immense. But for the first time in a very long time, he believed that his people would survive. Not alone, never alone again. Together,